Passes. That is the end of the Municipal Building Authority agenda. And we will now go to the Redevelopment Agency meeting and call this to order for Wednesday, May 22nd. All board members are present, which I should have probably said for the previous two boards, but we're all still here. First item of business here is RDA Resolution 245, adopting the tentative budget for fiscal year 25 and setting June 5th as the date for the public hearing for the final budget. And we'll go back to Ms. Steck.
Thank you. Ellen, we go to the next slide. We're proposing to you for the budget next year, tax increment receipt of $3.9 million, which is property tax that's been dedicated toward redevelopment. And then a general fund transfer of $385,000. That represents the energy franchise tax and sales tax rebates that we have obligated under the RDA. Operationally for next year, we have operations and agreements, which is partially that sales tax and energy tax rebate, as well as some tax increment rebates in the amount of $2.1 million. So that's what's obligated of the tax increment and transfer that's above in those revenues. Like that's what we already have working for us. And then a second line, which is improvements for $4.9 million. Those improvements are using some of the reserves in the RDA to make improvements in several areas. And so we're asking to use a use of reserves of $2.7 million. You can go to the next slide, please. You can see that the ending reserves after this proposed budget are still strong. They're $14.9 million, with several of the older RDA areas still maintaining balances in them for some work that could be done. And then some of the EDA areas holding some balances as well. You can see this EDA number 5 and CDA number 2 both have negative balances because those areas are not currently active or collecting tax increment, but they have had purchases made that will be in the best interest of those areas. One of them was the Amazon incentive for that EDA number 5. And then we did purchase a large amount of land with CDA number 2 that we've been working to with development and industrial businesses. A portion of that CDA number 2 land is the land sale that you saw on the last slide that we just sold to Truck Ranch. Next slide, please. The agreements that we have in place that we just spoke about, PayPal and Aligned Energy, those are both the rebate agreements. I'm sorry, PayPal is not a rebate agreement. PayPal is a tax increment agreement. So a portion of the tax increment that we receive from PayPal, they receive back for their investment in the property and contribution to our property tax. Then Bangor Station is also that same kind of agreement. And then the Sportsman Warehouse is the sales tax rebate agreement. So when you see the word rebate, that means it came from the general fund. It's coming from what they've contributed there, and we're rebating it back to them. Next slide. The improvements that we're proposing are the 70th South Beautification Project. Currently, we have that out for bid for design. I did not get with Corey to find out if that bid had come back, but I believe that we are in the design phase. This would be for what we believe would be the total construction of that area. We would need to be installing a retaining wall, landscaping, and irrigation system and signage. But again, it's just an estimate since design has not been complete yet. RDA number 4, we have the 90th South Beautification Project, which has landscaping, irrigation, signage, and that we anticipate to be about $550,000. That would occur at the end of next fiscal year because that would be after UDOT finishes all of their work. And then we'll come in afterwards and make some of those beautification efforts in the area. And then the last one is under construction right now. We're contributing to 40% of the project cost for the cemetery water tank, which will allow us to have increased water ERUs to provide for continued growth and development. So that's $3.5 million. That's all I have. And so council, I would entertain your questions or ask you to consider resolution 245.
Questions, comments, Council Board Member Green.
Mr. Anderson, can you go back a few slides to the overall? One more. So this currently shows that for the budget for this year, we're going to go in the hole $2.7 million. So after we spend that 2.7 million, does that leave us the 14 million in
Yes.
reserves?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions? Just one just parenthetical comment about that particular topic is with RDAs, what often happens is we get one-time revenues and one-time expenses, and they don't always fall within the same year. So it'll go into reserve, it'll come out of reserve, it'll go into reserve, it'll come out of reserve. Just kind of depending on how timing stacks up. Like when you purchase land for truck ranch and then you sell the land back, it obviously happened at different times. So the budget doesn't look like it balances, even though it really does. Further comments or questions, board member Lamb?
Yeah, real quick, except Alan walked away, but there, going back to the budgets, for each RDA area, this is more of a question for, probably Corbin and the mayor and maybe Denise, but can you get us a list of any funds that might be expiring in any of these? Because from what I understand, if we don't use the funds, we could lose them. Are there any areas where we are in jeopardy of losing funding?
There is no area that we're in jeopardy of losing our funding. We would be grandfathered in all of these areas because it was predicated under a different rule. However, some of these areas are expired and inactive. And so if you look in your budget book, in each area at the very top of each of the areas, it will tell you when that area was active or when it expired. And best practices for you to try and expend those funds within 5 years of an expiration date at the very most. You know, RDA and EDAs and CDAs are intended to collect tax increment to make a difference. And so
To use them.
yeah, and you're right, to use them. It's very difficult to use them every single solitary year as they
Right.
come in because there's not enough. But when you accumulate them, yes, it is a good time to use them. So I would strongly suggest the board meet and have a work session to really discuss what its vision would be for each of these areas or for the money that's been collected.
Agreed. And then my last comment I agree with board member Whitelock from a few weeks ago. I'd like to see how that 2 million on 70th South is going to be spent. So I'm not sure when that will be. Is that planned to be put in front of us?
That is planned to be put in front of you as soon as we have some sort of concept design. So you can reduce the budget if you'd like to a design, an amount that you would say, hey, we want to get design done, and then ask for a budget amendment for construction, but it will slow down a little bit, right? Because I've got to get through agendas to get the budget in place before we could go out to bid for construction.
Okay.
So
I mean, whatever works best for, for how we're going to spend that. I mean, I drive by it daily. It really does need help. So I would love to see the thoughts of what we're going to do with that. Right now it's full of rocks and dead trees. So thank you.
Yeah.
And dead rocks.
No, those rocks are not dead. Ooh.
Board member Green.
I'm going to be voting no on this tonight. And the reason why is because I think we need to do more with figuring out what our RDA is going to do. If we say, well, we're going to do a work session sometime in the future, we might look at something. We don't have, frankly, we haven't had a good plan in 4 years. This will be the 5th year that we've not had a good plan with the exception of the 70th South Gateway. And I think we need to come up with a better plan. So I'm going to vote no tonight.
Any further discussion or a motion? This is again, resolution 245. Board Vice Chair Lamb.
I will motion that we accept RDA resolution number 245, adopting the tentative budget for the Redevelopment Agency of West Jordan City for fiscal year 2025 and setting June 5th, 2024 as a date for a public hearing regarding the adoption of the final budget.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Board Member Lamb, seconded by Board Member Bloom. Any discussion to the motion to adopt? Right, Board Member Shelton.
Chair, I saw Mr. Lee raise his hand wanting, it looked like you wanted to make a comment. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Go ahead, Mr. Lee.
I was just going to respond to Councilman Green's comments. We have a lot of work to do with the RDA areas. We have good resources here. We have good assets. We have incredible opportunity and an awful lot of work to develop a new plan and some visions around how to use these RDA funds. Next week, or excuse me, not next week, at your next council meeting, we hope to be introducing you to our next economic development director. And we want to get going. We want to get going right away. I understand, Councilman Green, I understand your concerns. Share those concerns. We feel like this is a good budget proposal for this year to get us going in these areas with 70th South, 90th South, and continue with the work we already started on the cemetery tank. But I just want you to know your comments are not going unheeded.
Thank you. Board Member Whitelock.
So I just want to say I concur with Board Member Green and wondering if you, Mr. Lee, would be willing to put an RCA in to show us that we're going to be talking about, that staff wants to come and talk to us about how to use these monies. And I understand that we're hiring another economic development person, and that's great. But they've come and gone. So while I appreciate that he's coming, I don't think we can rely on, I'm not comfortable saying, well, we'll see what he comes up with. I would like to hear that you want to come to us with a meeting with him for our RDA board so that we can have some discussions, kind of visioning discussions of where we want to spend the money, not just what a non-resident wants. So you willing to tell me that you'll put an RCA in?
So I'm a little unclear on what it is you're asking. What, will we put an RCA in for visioning at a?
For a work session, basically for the RDA board to be called.
Yeah, happy to. Not for this next meeting, because I want that director on board, but absolutely, we have
Sure,
Yes.
but I don't want to wait a year. What I heard is we're good with this for the year. and
oh, no.
I'm not good
No.
with
Sorry,
this
I
for
didn't
a
mean to
year.
imply that we're going to sit on our laurels for a year. But I do want to get someone on board, get them going on this and then get back to the council quickly. Yeah.
I'd love to see that in our prime gov. Thank you.
Board Member Bador.
I wasn't a part of the apparently last 4 years when nothing was done. I'm a part of this year, so I'm going to be forcing that we make things happen and not sit for 4 years. So I'm good with this, and I'm excited to hear what we've got planned up.
Thank you. I'll just, as we sum up comments here, that we're voting on the tentative budget right now, and that's all. So with that said, we'll go to board, whatever person, Anderson. I'm sure you have a title related to the board. I just don't know what it is.
Still just council office director that coordinates all of this for you on your behalf. Board Chair Jacob,
Yes.
Board Member Vice Chair Lamb,
Yes.
Board Member Bador,
Yes.
Board Member Shelton,
Yes.
Board Member Green,
No.
Board Member Bloom,
Yes.
Board Member Whitelock.
Yes.
That motion passes 6-1.
Thank you very much. Next item up is the consent items, which is the minutes from May 8th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Board Member Whitelock, seconded by Board Member Lamb. Any discussion to the motion to approve the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We'll rule that passes unanimously, and that is the end of the the redevelopment agency board meeting. Our next meeting is a committee of the whole meeting to continue to discuss the budget, which we will convene in the conference room in 10 minutes. So we'll call that
You say
7:40.
conference room over here? or-
Yeah, the
okay.
council workroom, council conference room. So we'll convene at 7:40 and this meeting is adjourned.